What's poppin', y'all? The OGs are admitting that they cannot compete anymore, and they're being fully honest about it.
Everyone's cooked on Twitch right now. There's a whole lot of nothing to do. So and
you
also,
want to know why?
and no one's getting view count either in anything.
Well, you know why?
Why?
It's because everyone speed runs everything.
What do you mean?
You know, like the example with the tier list that I brought up in the past. Instead of like, because everyone's just like, because my whole strategy on Twitch, which worked by the way, was to do the most boring content I could for as long as I could.
Okay.
With people watching.
Sure.
Okay. So I would have like one interesting thing a week, maybe, you know, and the rest of it would be boring to kind of spread it out.
So here, the guy that's speaking is Nick Pollum, also known as NMP LOL, and the guy sitting next to him is Soda Poppin'. These two are both OG streamers. This guy, Soda Poppin', was very big in World of Warcraft streaming. He actually influenced XQC a lot, as well as this other guy, Greek God X, who was at one point a very, very big streamer. So this guy's an OG of the game, and they all started streaming together. A lot of people will say that this guy, Nick, blew up because he was friends with Soda Poppin'. They're like, yo, listen, if you were on your own, you wouldn't have made it. They kind of try to hit him with that, which I don't really know. I wasn't there that early. Like and I never played World of Warcraft. I never knew how World of Warcraft worked. So these guys were streaming probably from like 2012. So I missed that whole era, especially World of Warcraft saga. Now, other sides of streaming, yes. But in particular here, there is a good point to be made where he talks about how his strategy for longevity was to have maybe one cool segment a week, and then the rest of the week was generally them just playing video games. Now, granted, you have to take into consideration that when they started streaming, 2012 to 2016 into 17, there was no such thing as IRL streaming. You were only allowed to play video games on Twitch. So if you just really weren't allowed to do anything else. You would get banned if you were IRL streaming on Twitch once upon a time. So what he's talking about is post 2017. So you got to think he already had the longevity, and then he started to do other things. And then it would be like a cooking stream. Like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of cooking. Nowadays, you look at the top streamers and they do a cooking stream. They're like, yo, what the hell is this boring stuff? What are you doing out here? But at that point in time, it was really interesting because you saw the individuals go from the game to doing something in real life. In this guy's case, he would do some sort of a segment. And that was very entertaining for a while. And we have to take into consideration what these guys say, not with a grain of salt, with obviously, like, this is a pound of gold. This is the gold at the end of the rainbow, because these guys have demonstrated longevity. They are still here. They are still one of the top streamers. They're not competing. They're not in the same percentile of streamer that they were maybe 5-6 years ago, because the competition is just out of this world now. But they made it clear that they've been here for a while. These new guys, we don't know if they're going to rinse through it really quickly, get burnt out. Who knows? But this next part is where it is a bit contentious for me.
Sure.
But nowadays, this is a bit off topic, but what people do nowadays is, hey, I'm in New York. Now I'm in Hawaii. Now I'm in Australia. Now I'm in this. And that just raises the motherfucking bar.
No, the bar is very high.
And it burns everyone out because people are. This is kind of what Ice did early on. Like his content has to keep moving the bar. But there's
they're all young, man. But you're talking about the young people.
About, even our friend group kind of travels a lot too. You know.
Okay.
But there's only so much stuff you can do.
Yeah.
You know, and Twitch, and the OG Twitch was more about actual like relationships, like Soda and Reckful's relationship. You know, building genuine stuff. That kind of why it kind of works so well. Parasocial, call it what do you want, whatever.
Sure.
But now I do think there is a lot of burnout. You know, like, Jason's doing an island stream, agents in Antarctica. You know, it's great.
That's crazy.
It's great. But the thing is, they're like, talk about numbers. They're doing all this crazy stuff. I used to get 20K viewers in the kitchen. You know, and they're doing all this crazy stuff. And it's just so, and now it's like, okay, well, you were just on an island. Well, now I don't want to watch you do a normal cooking stream. So that's why it feels like it's so burnt out, because it is, because everything's been done like so much. You gotta slow it down.
I quote tweeted this, and my quote tweet was, I posted a photo of the stage design on Ye's, I think it was this the Yeezus tour? I think this was the Yeezus tour. And I said, imagine rappers trying to tell Ye he was burning everyone out when he did this. The OGs of streaming just got away with no competition for so long that they can't handle it right now. And two things can be true at the same time. And I do hold two of these beliefs at the same time. Is Number one, these guys have been in it, like I said. We have to take it with a pound of gold. They've been in the game for 14 years. That is no light feat. And they built the infrastructure for the game too. Back then, there wasn't Twitch spamming ads. There wasn't people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on Twitch, and that was the norm, and people flexing income. That was not the case. People didn't even know if Twitch was going to last. So these guys took a massive risk when they went all in on this full time. And for a couple of years, they weren't even making huge amounts of money like they did in the later 2010s. So we got to take that into consideration. The second part is that, I think if they want to point at anybody, they've got to point at Kai Cenat. Because prior to Kai Cenat, you had an Aiden Ross who ushered in the new era. But with Aiden Ross, and before the gambling, because Kai Cenat did it non-gambling. Before Aiden Ross, he was in a nice house, but most of the streams were in Aiden's room. Like the GOAT streams that people remember Aiden Ross for, they were in the crib. And then just last year, Aiden Ross was with the president of the United States, and that was just a flash in the pan. And you're like, wait, what? This guy did a live stream with a president. Like, it doesn't matter if it was old president, new president. That's just insane. It's mind-blowing. So it's like, where do you go from there? And then Kai Cenat, he's somebody that ends up quitting because of that. But what they're talking about is true, because think about it, 7 days. And these guys are doing productions now. So you've got this guy, Jason Lewine, who they're referring to. He does 7 days stranded on an island where he has to fend for himself. They've got multiple camera angles. They've got high production. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. He's filming it 24/7. And then after that, it's like, okay, what's the next thing? The guy's streaming a couple of days later. Meanwhile, back in the day, this would have been a full-on TV production. They would have had it episodic. Each day, or maybe half of each day, would have been an episode. It would have been 14 episodes for one full season, and then you would have seen Jason Lewine next year. Meanwhile, now, you see Jason Lewine in a couple of days. And I think that's what causes these people to burn out, because you're constantly spending more money. You're forced to pack everything into such a short span of time because people's attention span is moving. And I think they were trained to be like that because TikTok was going on in the early 2020s. Like, for example, XQC, right? And we're going to mention a couple of different streamers. XQC, Valkyrae, who else? This guy, Sykkuno. Like, there was that whole Among Us wave. The Fortnite was a huge game, so I wouldn't really consider that. But XQC, I think he was the last streamer that just pulled those views just off the strength. And I would say Queso right now. XQC and Queso are those two guys that they hop, and Jinxie, yeah, where they don't need a budget. They don't need a bunch of bread. They don't need a bunch of other big streamers or celebrities. They do it on their own. But XQC's generation, he didn't have to deal with the pressure. He was averaging 100K playing Slither.io games. He was playing web games. And that is not the case for him anymore. Part of it, you could say, is because like he moved platforms a little bit, was doing the kick thing for a while, and then was half and half. And he's just generally, I wouldn't say fallen back because he still streams a lot of hours, but he's never been a guy that's trying to compete with these other guys. Whereas Kai Cenat, he just took it to the nth degree. He just said, we're going to have a celebrity every single day for 30 days. LeBron James is cutting my hair, 1 million subs. He just MrBeasted it. And that's the thing that same thing that happened with YouTube. And this is why I've been echoing this for forever, that Kai Cenat is the MrBeast of Twitch. Because when MrBeast came into the game, all the other YouTubers were like, yo, what the hell? Like, you're talking about OG YouTubers. PewDiePie just threw the hat and he just threw in the towel. He said, okay, I beat T-Series. I hit 100 million subs. You got it, MrBeast. I'm not doing this. I'm not building a 150-person team. Like, PewDiePie was running it with one editor when he was living in London, where I know he was in the UK. I know he's originally from Sweden, but there was a period of time when PewDiePie was just doing his meme review, and it was just one guy, one editor. PewDiePie wasn't the type to be, I didn't get into this game to have 500 employees and be making chocolate and building wells. I'm good off that. Y'all can have that. I'm going to Japan with my family and I'm de-Googling my phone. So a lot of people, I think, in streaming are feeling that pressure too, because now you're compared to the top people in the game. And I think these guys, they are a bit, I would say the NMP guy, he's maybe a little bit of frustration because seeing your views go down, it doesn't feel good. But I do think there's a side of wisdom to it too, which is these guys were able to save a lot of money making content. And I do think constraints make you more creative, but these new streamers, they haven't lasted this long. And they are spending a lot of money. Like some people say like, yo, this guy's making 20K a day. Yeah, you're not seeing, number one, there's a lot of abuse of PEDs, performance enhancers, that are going on in the streaming industry. If people are streaming a lot of hours, many don't speak about it, but that is a common thing. I assure you, they're not high energy on stream hours a day, every single day, just like that. So that costs money, and they just have massive staff. They have a lot of production costs. So you might see somebody making 10K a day, but they're really spending 8K to make that 10K in a day, whether it's food and all the other things that come with it, the home, all this other stuff, travel for their travel costs. Now everybody's got a cameraman. So really they're making 2K a day, let's just say. However, 2K a day, you might say, okay, well, that's 60 bands a month. That's a crazy amount. It is. That is a wild amount to make. That's almost an M a year. But with this 60 bags a month, it's not the same as if they were able to save a little bit more. And they're not able to save a little bit more because, like, let's say they made 60 bags a month for a year straight. They get hit with tax, but they fall off or they're unable to sustain it. And then, who knows what happens after that. It's tough. And they're constantly pushing the bar. It's like, where do you go from here? And I think what's going to happen is that it's just going to reverse course to where it's going to go back to streamers that are able to do a lot and be entertaining with very little resources and without doing major productions are going to get a new wave of audience. Kind of like when Sam Sulek came into the whole fitness space and he was just doing calm, relaxed, just focused, just training vlogs. This guy would just record himself training, eating, grocery shopping, and he had a crazy blow up. And it was just him. It wasn't like people trying to make it seem like it was a whole wave, but there was clearly a demand for somebody like that. And even MrBeast, when he blew up, he was somebody with constraints. He didn't have a lot of money at the time, and he was just doing outrageous stunts, you could call them, like counting to 100,000. So I think we're going to revert back to that. There will always be, and I think this is strictly only IRL streaming, because these guys like Stable Ronaldo, and I would say the people that fall under what NMP is talking about is the FaZe guys mostly. Like you've got Marlon, Lacey, Ronaldo. You have the other guys. I would say Kai is kind of just like a little bit retired. Agent, although Agent, I think he just does what he wants to do. He does make it cool though. Agent, Duke is kind of a little bit in the middle, but this is mostly the IRL genre they're talking about. They're not talking about games. And NMP, I don't think he's fighting for an audience with any of these guys. But when you're trying to plan an idea, and I will also have to point out to them, to point the finger back at them, their mans and their womans, Ludwig and his girlfriend, Cutie Cinderella, I'm pretty sure they were before Kai Cenat in producing these big shows, like the whole Streamer Awards, and she's produced, it was something, SHIT Camp. I think she was the one that did that. And Ludwig was doing these events and chess boxing, and he was just doing bigger event after bigger event. So pointing out to their community too, these guys were pushing it even before you could say like a Kai Cenat or an Aiden Ross. And I think what Aiden's doing is cool because it gives a lot of opportunity for other people to come in and earn a living and like build storylines. And I would say it's like the prime entertainment that everyone can be involved in streaming, because everybody loves to watch a good fight with a good backstory and good beef. Not everybody wants to watch Jason Lewine on an island for 7 days. That's more of like a kid thing. Although I do respect him doing that. But let me know what y'all think. Do you think this is like a bit of saltiness? Do you think this is a bit of wisdom? Do you think this is a correct perspective for them to have? Because, like I said, they've been in the game for a very long time. They've seen several iterations, and they're still surviving and thriving. Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.